Mitch McConnell introduces a Republican new bill, and it does not have stimulus checks in it, despite indications it would. So does that mean a Trump executive order for second stimulus checks is coming right away? Hey, good evening, everybody. This is LALATE Evenings. Hope you're good and safe. This is a special report following this evening's report minutes ago, where I revealed that the second stimulus package introduced by Mitch McConnell to the Senate this afternoon, or on the East Coast evening time, did not have in it second stimulus checks after weeks of being told it would be in it. So now, tonight, for the first time ever, this channel is going to investigate whether or not second stimulus checks were deliberately not put into the Republican bill introduced today because they're coming by executive order for President Donald Trump. You know, it's a really interesting twist of events that no one saw coming, and it's as though it's supposed to tee up something hideously dramatic and to win your approval. The question is whether a lot of people have lost faith at this point. The important thing to remember is that everyone involved has said you're going to get a second stimulus check. But it's ironic that they all said it would be in today's bill, and it wasn't in it. Except the president. He's the only one that didn't say it would be in today's bill. Let's recap before we get to the analysis. Mark Meadows, chief of staff to Donald Trump, said no less than half a dozen times that today's bill would be $500 billion and would include extension of FPUC and include another round of stimulus checks. Steve Mnuchin said this bill today would include a round of stimulus checks. Larry Kudlow, Mitch McConnell, all said the same thing as well. And then Mike Pence said that this president wants to send out second stimulus checks right away. Well, as we sit here, we wonder, why did the bill debut today and did not have it in there? Immediately the reaction by viewers, even before I had finished uploading afternoon's LA videos, which were recorded before the announced bill. I have to fully explain that. Viewers were scrambling, hearing from one another and from friends and family members that the bill had been introduced and there was no stimulus check in there, causing a lot of people to be sort of shocked and confused, because we had been just told hours ago, days before, by everyone that it was going to be in there. So why is it not in there, and is it coming by executive order? Here's the analysis. 1. The numbers don't line up for stimulus checks to be in this bill. It's interesting because no one knows how much it costs to do an extension of FPUC at $300 a week, which is what this bill does. It's not very clear how much that cost, but the bill is priced at $500 billion. That was what we are told it's going to be, and that is what it is tonight. Well, is anything in the bill taking up the value of what stimulus checks would have cost out of the $500 billion? No. That's what's really shocking, that only I am reporting tonight. That if you look at the breakdown of all the different items that are in the stimulus package that's debuted today, nothing in there was put in there to replace stimulus checks. So if you had put stimulus checks in there that cost $300 billion, the bill would have been $800 billion, a number that's totally different than anyone had said this bill would be. Everyone said the bill would be $500 billion. Everyone said the stimulus checks would be in there. But out of $500 billion, it takes $300 billion to pay for stimulus checks. The remaining $200 billion doesn't cover anything. It doesn't cover FPUC 2.0. So then you wonder, well, was this sort of a play on words that they were doing with us to tee up an executive order? The interesting thing to think about are the following. 1, The president has no less than twice said he wants to and he will do stimulus checks by executive order and thinks that he has the authority to do it. Second, the president does have the authority to send out second stimulus checks. If the money is not from Treasury, the $300 billion he identified on Friday, he did not say was Treasury money. And it's likely it's not Treasury money. It's extra money sitting around from the first CARES Act. More about that in a second. Third, the president wants the stimulus checks to be his achievement. He doesn't want it to be Mitch McConnell's achievement. He doesn't want it to be Congress's achievement. But he said for them to get it done, but yet he doesn't have them get it done. This last point has to be addressed first. He has said that he wanted Congress to send out stimulus checks. Well, he doesn't give them a bill for them to do it. He had said that the Democrats are holding up his checks. No, today Mitch McConnell held up your checks because Mitch McConnell didn't have a bill that provided second stimulus checks. So if the antics or the descriptions of the situation may be a little bit off and inaccurate from the president, the question is whether or not he actually can and actually will use executive order authority to send out your second stimulus checks. First, he absolutely has the authority and he absolutely has the funds to do it. One, we know that there's $300 billion of money sitting around. He told us that on Friday. Two, we know the money is not in Treasury because he said that this is specifically money from the first COVID-19 relief, first stimulus package that was dedicated for something, wasn't used, and still sitting around. That's not Treasury money. Treasury money is literally money that has never been used for anything. The provision that everyone talks about to have authority from Congress to send out money means to send out money that has never been allocated for anything else. It's like saying, you have a bank, and the bank is the IRS. The bank is the Treasury. The bank is is overseen by Steve Mnuchin, who's head of Treasury. And there's money in the bank, and you want the money in the bank to be sent out. Okay, you have to go to Congress to get authority to send the money out of the bank. That's one thing. The other thing is when the money has already been taken out of Treasury under a first stimulus package bill and put to something, a program for new shoes, a program for new chairs, and the money wasn't used and it's still sitting in that program, and the president has authority to route that money to be used for something else for emergency purposes, that's not taking money out of the Treasury. It's already out of the Treasury. It's been out of the Treasury for 6 months. So the president absolutely, categorically has the authority to use money and to route money for emergency means without congressional authority because it's not Treasury money. Third, is there enough money out of $300 billion to pay for stimulus checks? Yes. I've done that analysis before. It comes out to about $1,875 of an individual. Now, I'll fully explain. There's a lot more to that. And I don't want to go into, because that's almost like a 2-hour video. But there's enough money, it appears, for $300 billion to get stimulus checks to every individual that we're calling for. $1,200 for single individuals, $2,400 for married couple, stimulus checks for dependents, whether adult or minor dependents. You know, there's clearly enough to do a $500 dependent check. I don't know if there's enough to do $1,200 dependent check. It's a little bit more complicated, and I'm not going to go through the analysis, but there's enough money there to send out stimulus checks to everyone that qualifies for a stimulus check. Whether you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, there's enough money there to send out a stimulus check. So, why hasn't he done it? That's the real big question. Now, a lot of viewers have opinions about it. Here are your opinions that I've seen in the comments of this video. And of course, if you subscribe to this video and you have a little red next to your name, I see you as part of the community, so I read those comments first. First, a lot of viewers simply do believe it's a dangling carrot situation. When I say by dangling carrot, I mean that the president is literally trying to do this at an 11th hour, routing the checks into hands of American voters minutes before they go vote. It's literally like that to win the re-election bid. That's what some viewers think. Second, other viewers think that he wants it to look like the Democrats caused all the problems and that he went through all hoops and hurdles to do something and couldn't get it done and so had to do this. Um, I don't think that scenario is as strong an argument as we sit here tonight because it's not in the bill. We had talked about had he put stimulus checks in today's bill, it approved by the Senate, it goes to the House, and the Temple of Doom rejects it. Then he could say, okay, I did my duty. I got it into a bill. Senate approved it. It went to the House. Democrats killed it again. You know what? Let me do my executive authority now. That seemed more viable. But by not doing a bill for stimulus checks, it's not his job to do bills. He's in the executive branch. He's not in the legislative. He's not in the legislative branch. He's not a member of Congress. But for no one in the Republicans to get a stimulus check thing out there is a little bit peculiar. But here's this. If you look at all the elements involved in today, and everything that's happened in the last 3 days, everything seems sort of suspicious, doesn't it? Everything seems like it's been plotted out and that we have been told how it ends. Because if you're told on Friday you want to send out stimulus checks, but the Democrats won't let you, you have a press conference on the president. You have a press conference on Monday, the president, and he says, Nancy and Chuck are horrible people, and they're trying to hold up your checks. And then you have today, and there's no bill for checks. And the bill for today is exactly $500 billion, which is what all your team members, McConnell, Mnuchin, Meadows, all those people with M's, they all said, it's going to be $500 billion. What doesn't have the $300 billion for stimulus checks? It sounds like everyone's on page. The quarterback has given the play instructions. We're gonna Omaha. We've all gotten the call for what the play. It's gonna be. It's gonna pass action. Through the hole. You go out a run. Everyone knows the play, but we're on the other side and we just don't know what's happening yet. All we know is we've been told we're getting stimulus checks. So where are these stimulus checks? It's very likely then that the president could be teeing this up for executive authority. Now, the thing that you can simply do, and this is incredibly great news, this is incredibly focused and smart and sophisticated, is that you can use your knowledge of the purple power and calculate out how many days it would take you to receive the stimulus check in your hands as an American voter before you go into the polling booth to vote for either Biden or Trump. How many days it takes you to get the check, and count backwards as to when he would have to start sending the checks out, and count back how much further he would have to create an executive order. It's unclear how quickly checks can be sent out by executive order as opposed to checks being sent out by Treasury. Treasury has said they can get checks out to you within 10 days after something becomes law or becomes executive order. How about if the funds are not in Treasury? How about if the funds are somewhere else? We saw how quickly FEMA moved. FEMA moved incredibly quickly. I don't even think it was 10 days. I think the first state started getting money within 7 days. It was incredibly fast. If it's in an agency that can route the money to you, how quickly can they route the money to you? Let's presume it's 10 days. 10 days back from the election. Okay. Then let's add a few days to have an executive announcement, executive order. He likes them on Saturdays. He likes to announce something the day before, and then suddenly it just hits. He doesn't do the executive order on the same day he does a press conference. So if he did that, you would add 2 more days. So maybe 12 days before the election. But then you want to actually ensure that the American voter actually receives the check. You don't want to, you don't want it to be stalled in the mail, because Louis DeJoy is, taking out some mail sorting things. But we're not going to talk about that. So you might add maybe another week to it. All right, so maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the election, he would announce the executive authority. That would give him enough time to get the checks in your hands. Here's the other rub, and you know what I'm about to say because you've watched my other videos. He may want the checks to be in your hands before you start filling in mail-in ballots, which is earlier than the election day. Mail-in ballots start, weeks earlier. If you're at that timeline, it's coming up very quickly. With that, there's a lot to think about. And if you're going to ask my opinion, as I sit here tonight, because I know you always value my opinion, and I'm always, I'm a little shy about issuing my opinion because sometimes people take my opinion and say I said it's an issue of fact. So I'm fully disclosing this is my opinion. I think that there's sometimes inconsistency with this president, and that you would think that someone who said on Monday, Chuck and Nancy want the economy to be bad because a bad economy won't get me reelected and a good economy will get me reelected. Well, I mean, under that theory, you as a president would just throw stimulus everywhere. You would just spend stimulus on everything you could spend it on to get this economy moving. He hasn't done that. He has rather spent more time on spinning us with false narratives of how wonderful the employment numbers are when they're not. So there's that sort of strangeness of how he wants to say something's great but then isn't, and then doesn't want to spend money when that could ultimately have helped the economy and could have helped his reelection bid. So there's that sort of strange dynamic about him. The other dynamic that's very strange is he tends to really want to cast blame on other people, but then doesn't follow through on his own occasion. So remember, he said that the Democrats gave you $1,200 second stimulus checks on the HEROES Act. And he says, that's not enough. I want to give a more generous check. Well, he never came up with a more generous check. Again, that was casting blame upon people. And then when it was his time to actually do something, he didn't do it. But I think the most important thing is his motivation. And his motivation is to win. And everyone knows that no matter how much you are partisan or not partisan, or on the fence or independent, a check in your hand could change the voting dynamic of the electorate on the eve of the election. It is a move that a lot of viewers of this channel don't like because it's a dangling carrot, but 3 percentage points is where his approval rating moved after people got the first stimulus check. And if you didn't know then, you weren't on Twitter, you weren't on social media that much, you got on it because of Purple Power. I saw back then the tweets. The tweets were generally all sort of comedic, where people were saying, I can't stand Trump. There's no way I'm going to vote for him. Oh, but now I really like him because I got a stimulus check. And they were doing memes and they were doing jokes. But it was a gag. But in the same regard, it was sort of their opinion that maybe I don't dislike you so much anymore because you just gave me $1,200 and someone else didn't. There's always that. So as you sit here tonight, will you be getting a second stimulus check is probably a question you're asking me. I'm still saying yes. When will you be getting it? That question I'm absolutely not answering because it's simply unclear right now. I had 5 people, Meadows, Mnuchin, McConnell, and Trump and Pence, who have all now not said have said something in the last 5 days and have now done something totally different. So this is why it's really hard to predict routing times. But the most important thing that I always tell you with the viewers of this channel is get on as many things as you can get on. If you can get on UI, if you can get on PUA, get on those things right now. $300 a week for 20 weeks is $6,000. Get on it right now. I will bring back PPP videos if you want me to bring back PPP videos. Anything that you can get money, I will help you get that money. EIDL loans, if you want me to ramp up on more EIDL loan videos, I'll do that as well. As always, give me a subscribe and a like. Go to the front of this channel, hit that subscribe and the alert button. We're doing well today. We're at like 242 almost tonight. So we're about 8,000 away from 250,000. That's our goal within 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is coming up on this Saturday. So we have about 8,000 to go. Let's get it going. Come on. And finally, like this video because it helps the algorithm. Boy, 3 of our videos was ranking first today. So yes, first. So your liking is really helping. Coming up tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is morning's LA. We'll have more about today's developments and anything new overnight. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and save LA for more.